It is 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Finish First Financially's live stream. This is actually the third one. I started doing these on Monday, which was the 20th of May. So today's the third one. I plan on doing a live stream every Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, every day, and obviously excluding weekends. And as I mentioned, in the first two live streams, I first want to talk about. I spoke about how I was homeless and how I changed my finances around completely. And then I also spoke about some other finance topics. But the second one was really kind of had a structure, and I spoke about a specific aspect of personal finance, which was how to stop living paycheck to paycheck. And that's just such a big thing for most people who are struggling financially. Yeah, a lot of people can't even make it to the next month. They just keep going further and further down. So they're not even able to do month to month, paycheck to paycheck. They're just completely struggling. And I thought today that I'd talk about how to stop being broke, because it seems like it's a perpetual cycle for most people. They just don't know how to get out of it. And the thing about personal finance is that regardless of most aspects of personal finance, whether we're talking about living paycheck to paycheck or being broke, those are essentially all the same things if you really think about it. At the root, the cause is the same, whether how to stop living paycheck to paycheck or how to stop being broke. Those are the same two root causes. And I touched on yesterday, reducing your expenses and so forth. And today I've got another post from Finish First Financially, which is my blog where I write various personal finance topics. It's all available for free. Also on the blog, obviously, if you'd like to know what I went through, in-depth personal experience, I detailed everything of how I started in finance, how I failed in business, how I became homeless, and how I eventually got out of debt, $40,000 that I paid off, and eventually went on to save $50,000. All of that information is in my book, From Homeless to Debtless with Savings. That's the name of the book. It's available on the blog. And also, if you want to set up a private consultation with me, also on finishfirstfinancially.com, you can book there. Uh, you know, people, there's a lot of information out there, and even this whole stream is about giving out information. Oh, also by the way, on the first stream, I spoke about what my intent was with the channel, which is to do consultations with people. Well, kind of like call-ins where people, from North America call in and we discuss their finance issues. So we'll eventually get to that when there's enough people, obviously, watching these live streams, and then we can get callers in. So that's the kind of intent. So you could see what others are going through, so that you know that you're not the only one. And then I'll also make suggestions. I tell people, the callers, what I went through, and they can use it or not if they don't want to. That's just my take on it. Obviously, this isn't financial or investment advice. This is purely for entertainment purposes. And so that's kind of that's where we're going with this channel. But right now, we're discussing several topics until we get to that point where I can take calls. We're going to be discussing, looking at different articles that I've got on the blog, talking about different personal finance aspects that are so important. Just going back to what I said about, all of the information being out there, and you can obviously get it online. The thing is, people like, to hypothetically have their hand held, kind of be guided through this process, because it can be daunting, can be frightening. You might be confused and anxious and all kinds of things. And that's why the personal consultations kind of help. I'm there with you. We discuss this in privately. So the consultation's obviously available if you make a booking on the site. That's one of the services that I offer. Obviously, the product is the book, and then these live streams, which I do for free, and I hope that there's value in it for people who are watching. And that's kind of my goal, to share my knowledge, to share what I went through, so that you don't have to go through. You don't have to get to a point where you become homeless or are close to it. And you'd be surprised as to how many people are actually almost there. If you look at the statistics, which is something like 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And I think another statistic was about 50% of six-figure earners are also living paycheck to paycheck, which is unbelievable. That just shows you that it's not about the amount of money that you make, it's about the amount that you keep. That's what I spoke about yesterday. Oh, jeez, I've been on this. I just realized now I've been on this entire screen. Oh, man. You see, this is what happens. Okay, there we go. That's the screen that I wanted, the shot. This is what happens when you have just started streaming. Okay, so now that we're on the screen that I wanted, I spoke about the solution being conditioning yourself to be a saver. If you are broke, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's because you have not conditioned yourself to be a saver. And there's so much that goes into that. It's actually fairly simple. Money management is just a habit that you form, but and the habit is obviously formed with discipline. It takes some time. You need to be consistent. I refer to the term, some people say consistency, and that's exactly what it is. But I also like to use the word momentum, because when you do something over and over again, you build that momentum, and you gain more willpower to carry on. But that requires you to be disciplined. So that requires you to do it. And then through discipline, you build up all of this momentum, and you just carry on going and going. It's the same thing as me writing my book. I'm also a fiction writer, by the way. I'm writing a romance novel at the moment, and I write it every single day. I write at least 1,000 words Monday to Sunday. Doesn't matter if it's my birthday, if it's a public holiday, whatever is going on, I have to write my 1,000 words. Because what happened in the past is loss of momentum. And losing that momentum is an absolute killer. It stops you dead in your tracks. What happened is, if I miss a day and I don't write, for whatever reason, the second day, I'm going to think of excuses why to delay it even more. Why start it now? Let me just take another day off. And then next thing you know, 2 weeks have gone by and I haven't written a single word in that book. And that's exactly what happens with finance as well, personal finance. When you now decide that, you know what, I'm going to save money, but I'll save it for the first week. I'm not going to go shopping for 1 week. Then I'm going to break that cycle. I'm going to break that discipline, and I'm going to spend just 1 day because I deserve a treat, right? I haven't gone shopping for a week, so let me on the 8th day now treat myself. And then you might even say not go shopping for another 2 or 3 days. And then you just go intermittently, the 4th, and then now the 10th day you're going shopping again. And that's not discipline. You're not building momentum. You're breaking momentum. So you've built it up for 7 days, and now you've gone on a shopping spree, and you've completely killed that momentum. You've now actually shifted into a different mindset, because now you're going back to spending. And starting up all over again is just so difficult. That's actually that's key. That's so important. When you break that momentum to start up again, it's like a old rusty wheel now that you need to crank up again. Oh, it's just terrible. It's so difficult. And so it's much easier to just keep going, to keep up that momentum. That's why I made a commitment 365 days a year. Doesn't matter if it's Christmas, doesn't matter if it's my birthday. I have to write my 1,000 words every single day to keep up the momentum. And if you want to sort out your finances, you need to keep up the momentum. You need to be disciplined. So you need to say, I am going to eliminate this expense. Let's say it's takeouts. Not going to have takeouts ever. Well, I'm not going to say ever again, but until you're out of debt and until you've got savings. You just can't afford to. You can't afford to. And how do I know that you can't afford it? That's because you've got debt. That's simple as that. The reason that you finance something, the reason that you've got debt is because you didn't have the money for whatever it is that you bought. So you financed it. That's why you've got debt. So now, only once you're out of debt can you actually do the things that people who are financially free, which is going on shopping sprees and eating out and so forth. Until you're out of debt, until you've got significant savings and you've started investing, you can't do it. I mean, nobody's going to stop you. You know, you can do it, but you're just going to keep repeating the cycle of being broke. It's never going to fix itself, and you're going to be wondering, why is the world out to get me? Why does my boss not just pay me $2,000 more a month and I'll just solve all my problems? It's his fault. The taxes are too high. Rent is going up. Yes, I agree with you. You know, rent is going up. Taxes in some states, in some countries, is high. But the way to fight that is to lower your expenses and to remain disciplined. And, you know, the thing is, what I said about um, the amount of money that you keep is more important than the amount that you make, right? So obviously the ideal situation is for you to increase your income and decrease your expenses. That's the ideal situation, because then you kind of have the best of both worlds. So you're able to save more money, you're able to optimize your savings. But getting more money, getting an increase, finding a higher paying job, getting more clients, that takes time. And you need an immediate solution. You need to start changing your finances right now. And the one thing that you can absolutely control are your expenses. All right. So that's why you've got complete control over your expenses. So eliminate those ones that you don't need, and then you want to reduce all the other ones, the essentials. So that's kind of the gist of it. You know, whether we're talking about how to stop being broke or how to stop living paycheck to paycheck, it's all about managing your expenses, not living life beyond your means. It's all of the same things, really, if you think about it. I mean, in one way or another, this channel is going to be the same thing spoken about every single day, just mentioned differently, because that's really what personal finances are. Living below your means, reducing those expenses, not taking out debt, saving money. And saving money really happens through discipline, through building that momentum. And that's just a commitment that you make. And I made a commitment to live the minimalist lifestyle. Now, for most people, that's difficult. And I've also spoken about this, why it's difficult is because of status and comfort, which I think I'll do an entire stream on that, because that I can talk about that for on and on. And why it's important, to live below your means. It's because you want to develop a certain mindset, and the habits, as I was talking about earlier, conditions you to become a saver. And that's the long-term solution. is to be a saver, so that once you've paid off your debt and you've got savings, you can invest money. Then something crops up that you want. Let's say, you think, I've been working really hard on this, paying my debt off for the last couple of years, and I've been saving, and I'm in a much better financial position than what I was a couple of years ago. Why don't I treat myself to something? What about a better car? Now, once you've gone through this entire process of paying off your debt and saving money, and you want to buy this car, you're going to be completely, in a different mental state. You're going to think differently about this purchase because you've now conditioned yourself to become a saver. You're going to ask yourself, do I really need this new car? What's wrong with the one that I've got? And if I really need a bit of an upgrade, let me not go crazy and spend 30, 40,000. If my current car is 3, 4,000, let's go for a $10,000 car. And also, do I have the cash for it? And if I buy it, will I still have significant savings in my account? I don't want to be in a position when my savings are low and for whatever reason I now lose my income, and then I now need to scramble to pay my bills. I don't want to be in that situation. I want to cover myself for months, for years. That's the ideal situation. And this is how you're going to think once you condition yourself to be a saver, because it feels good to not have debt. And it was grueling to go through that whole process where you sacrifice so much. You lived the minimalist lifestyle. You didn't go out. You didn't have takeouts. You didn't go on shopping sprees. You made a really big sacrifice to be debt-free and have significant savings. And now for you to go back to that after you've paid off your debt, it's just not an appealing situation. You don't want to go there. The process was grueling enough, and you never want to go through that again. And that's why you're going to rethink your purchases. You're going to reevaluate your decision. You're going to look for cheap alternatives or completely opt out for purchases. And that's how you break that cycle of not being broke, because now you've conditioned yourself to become a saver. You are not just acting on impulse. That's how spenders think, how they act. They're impulsive, so it's like, oh, now I've got more money, let me spend it. And this is why I keep saying, the solution for spenders isn't to have a higher salary, because they're just going to find a way to spend that amount, the additional amount that they've received. They think that, just another $2,000 on my salary will change my world. It won't. It will just enable them to buy things that they don't really need, but they're still going to be living paycheck to paycheck, and they're going to be broke. So that's essentially it, when it comes to the main things about reducing your expenses, living below your means, being disciplined, which is so, so important, is to stick it out. You have to stick it out for a couple of years. For a couple of years, just think about that. It obviously depends on the size of your debt. For me, $40,000 7 years ago is much more than what $40,000 is today. So it was a significant amount, and I wanted to be debt free as soon as possible. And so I made that commitment to just live the minimalist lifestyle and reduce all of these expenses. And I did not, I wore the same jeans. Let me give you some examples of what the minimalist lifestyle really entails. Well, what I went through. So I would buy jeans that were literally $10. And I was living in South Africa at the time while I was paying off this debt. I grew up in South Africa, spent most of my life there. And I could buy at one of these stores, jeans for $10. I wore them for like 3-4 years. When I'd go and get groceries, I would think, do I really need to buy this cheese? Can't I just have the burger without the cheese and without the lettuce, because cheese was like can be really expensive. And the thing about that is, you say to yourself, "Ah, it's just cheese, man. Don't be such a cheapskate." But the problem is, if you get that cheese, then you want, you know what? This minced meat also looks good, and that pizza over there, it's packaged really nicely, and it just like you keep adding on more and more. So if you restrict yourself like completely, which is what I did, you don't veer off that path. So I think that's the kind of commitment that I had. I just like, if I had a burger, to just be like a patty with a roll. That's it, and some chips. And sometimes I wouldn't even buy tomato. We in South Africa say tomato sauce. You guys in the States will call it ketchup. So I didn't get any ketchup. So I was committed. I was committed to that process. And so I didn't buy any new clothing. I was just like wearing the same stuff for 3, 4 years. I limited my grocery expenses. Didn't have a car. I was working from home, so I was fortunate to have a remote position. I didn't need a car. And when I'd go shopping, I mean groceries, obviously not not clothing. When I'd go grocery shopping, I'd sometimes walk, or like when I just had too many bags, then I'd take a taxi. But I'm talking like once a week or something, once every 2 weeks. So it was nothing extravagant. So no transportation. I mean, very limited transportation costs. No shopping sprees, no takeouts, minimizing my grocery bill as much as possible. What else did I? Oh yeah, me like gadgets and subscriptions, like none of that. I'm just not interested in TV in general, but especially like these subscriptions, video streaming services. I didn't have any of those. I still don't. Uh, what else did I eliminate? So didn't have a car. Mm, no credit card. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, I think that's the most of it. But if you think about it, what percentage of your income is your transportation costs, especially if you've got vehicle finance. Oh my goodness. Then you've got insurance, then you've got gas, and you've got repairs and maintenance. So for me, that was 30% of my income. It was crazy what I was spending on my BMW, 30% of my income. So I didn't have that. So just not having that one expense, I saved already, I was up 30%. Then minimizing food expenses, not getting takeouts, not going on spending sprees, uh, shopping sprees rather. What else was there? I mean, I didn't have like, I just got rid of my iPad and didn't take out phone contracts. I just had an old phone. I think my phone cost at the time, this was 2020, when I was just like in the midst of paying off the debts. My phone was $100. Yeah, Android phone for $100 that I paid cash. I don't do, because I made a commitment. Once I started paying off debt, I made a commitment to not be in debt ever again. So I didn't take out any contracts, just bought that phone and I kept it. I still have it actually. Here it is. That's the phone. It's what phone is this? It's a Samsung A A is it A3 core? Maybe. Yeah, I can't even remember. A3 core, something like that. So I still have it, and I mean this is now 4 years ago. I need to actually replace the battery on it because the battery has died. But I mean, my daily phone I use what I'm actually recording with at the moment, and that's just a Samsung A4. So that's like a slight upgrade, and I even paid cash for that, always cash. I think that this phone was 150, not even 150, like $130. And I bought it purely because I needed, I wanted better quality image, better video quality, and also pictures. I wanted better images. For the quality had to improve because on this phone, I mean, it was just so bad. So I wanted something that was visually appealing, and I could actually improve on the quality of this phone as well. I just need to do some settings. But that was my point, is that was the only reason that I bought this phone. Otherwise, I would have carried on with this phone now 4 years later, and I still use it sometimes, mostly for internet. But I wouldn't have bought a new phone if it wasn't for this venture, for me recording these live streams and YouTube videos. Really, I mean, there was just no need for me. I could just replace the battery and carry on. I wanted better quality videos. So that was the reason for me. Otherwise, just carry on as it is. Like they say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So there was just stuff like that, that's I didn't go into these expenses because I wanted to dedicate as much money as possible to debt, and I wanted to get out of the debt very quickly. And I wanted to build savings, and that's exactly what I did. And I just carried on making these sacrifices every single day for like 6-7 years. And even though I got out of debt, which was in November 2022, that's when I got out of debt. So it's been about a year and a half now. Even now, because I've conditioned myself to live that lifestyle that I had when I was in debt and paying it off, I've now carried on with that lifestyle, and I don't feel that I've missed anything. So I became so used to it because I'd lived it for so many years that now I've just carried on living it, even though I've got quite a bit of savings and I can upgrade and I can buy a nice car for cash and still have cash left over. I just don't do it because I don't see the value in it. I just don't see the value in it. If I really need to buy a car, I'm using my friend's car at the moment, so he's very generous. But if I needed to buy my own car, I would not go for like a $10,000-$15,000 car. I'd be looking for a $2,000-$3,000 car, and there are reliable Toyotas and Hondas for that amount. Sure, it's going to be maybe a 2000 model or maybe even a bit older, but those vehicles are reliable, and as long as you maintain them, they'll look after you as well. So that's the kind of mindset that you will eventually develop as you become a saver, and it's important to get there as soon as possible. And the way to do it is just to make a commitment one day to say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to not be broke anymore. I don't want to be broke. It sucks to be broke. It's like a perpetual cycle. When I look at people, how they're living month to month, and they've got no money, it's like they just can't wait for their salary to come so that they can cover the expenses for the month, and they barely even make it. Let's say your salary is paid to you on the 1st. By the 20th of the month, they're already struggling, and they're like, oh, I can't go out anywhere, don't even have gas for my car, which is unbelievable. It's just crazy to me that people live like that. And you don't need to. You really don't need to. You can just say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to stop living like this. It's crazy. I don't have to live like this. It's too stressful. How can you not have money from the 20th until payday on the 1st? What happens if there's an emergency? I went into a shop close by here in the neighborhood where I buy, like bread, just as a small shop. And there's a girl who used to work there behind the till, and she was the only one there. It's like a very small shop. And I walk in there, and I'm always looking for things that are on discount. And I can't remember how it came about, but the conversation came up where she said, "Yeah, I've noticed that you like scrutinize every single cent, and like you're just looking for ways to save money." But she was saying that kind of like it as she was being cheeky, as if to say that there was something wrong with me for living like that. And then she joked. She said, let me when it's pensioners day, which is like a day that they give pensioners discount uh, to, I'm going to include you in that because she thinks I'm a cheapskate. So I was like, great, I'm being serious. I was like, yeah, cool. And I actually came back on that day and I said, can I have my discount? And she's like, oh no, I can't. They've got cameras here, so I can't do it. So she was joking. But going back to that day that I had that conversation with her, I she was kind of weirded out. She thought it was crazy that I was living like that, because oh my God, how can you be such a cheapskate? It's embarrassing, it's that's just not how normal people live. And then we went into her situation, and she told me that she runs out of money. I think, let's say it was like every 10 days before payday, she runs out of money, or whatever it was. And in one particular situation, she ran out of money for medication. She ran out of money, and her mother needed medication. She was sick at the time, and she did not have money to buy medication for her mother, who desperately needed, pills. I can't even remember what it was. And she asked her boyfriend to loan her money. So she was fortunate to have a boyfriend to help her out. But just think about that. She's kind of criticizing me, making fun of me for trying to save money, living the way that I am. It's funny to her, but she runs out of money before payday, and when an emergency crops up, she does not have the funds to buy whatever she needs to buy so that her family can have a chance of recovering or getting better. You know, and I think I'm sure the way she was acting, she still didn't realize that the way she's living is crazy. And she looks at me and thinks I'm crazy. I look at her and think she's crazy. And at the end of the day, who's right? Well, you're allowed to live your life the way that you want. It's completely up to you. But to me, it's mind-boggling that people can run out of money and not have any savings, to cover emergencies. That's just nuts. I wouldn't be able. That's just too much pressure. That's just I'd have so much anxiety. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I can't understand it. So I would rather have that people think I'm crazy and make fun of me while I still have savings and I can cover emergencies, as opposed to living the way that she does and the way most people do. They're so ashamed to ask for discounts. They're so ashamed to kind of look for the cheap alternative because that's not cool. What are people going to think? What are they going to say? And those types of people are struggling financially, just like her. There's lots of them because they're so worried about what other people are going to think. They've got this like shame of saving money, of looking for discounts, and they think that they think that people like me and me in particular are crazy for living the way that I do. And I'm just glad that I don't live the way they do, because That's just too much stress. That's crazy. Especially I can only imagine how she felt when her mother got sick and she didn't have money to get medication for her mom. What if something more serious happened to her mom? What's more important, your mom's health or the shame that you're trying to avoid by saving money? It's crazy. To me, it's nuts. It's unbelievable, the way people choose to live, and that's why they're broke. They've got this complex inside their heads. They're just so worried about other people's opinions and what other people are going to say. That's actually one. I, these live streams, I kind of have them off the fly. I just go with the flow. It's not like I've got any bullet points that I'm going through. And we'll get to this article now, which I haven't even read, but I'm sure some of the things that I already mentioned are in this article. But that's just, it's common sense. It's just something that I've lived through, and that's why I share my experiences. At the moment, I'm looking at the counter and there's nobody watching, you know. Yet I feel that I'm giving out very valuable information, which I think can help a lot of people. And I'll just keep going on and on until someone does tune into the live stream, until this does become, what I want it to be. And it's a regular thing where people tune into. So I'll just keep sharing this information, and even if it helps one person, well, then great. Then I've done my job. So let's check this article out of how to stop being broke. I've spoken about, quite a few things that I think will help you to stop being broke. I've given you a story as well about it. So let's check this out on finishfirstfinancially.com. I wrote this article April last year. Wow. Okay, so it's been more than a year, and I wrote, "It sucks not to have money. I know. You can't go anywhere and you feel miserable. The worst part is that the scenario keeps playing itself over and over again, and you don't know how to change it. The good news is that knowing how to stop being broke puts you on a financial trajectory that ensures you're never without money again. Once you're on that path, you won't understand how you ever allowed yourself to be without money." Yeah, that's, once you become a saver, you never want to go back to living month to month, or like that girl at the shop. You just can't understand, like, how the hell do people live like this? It's nuts. I can never allow myself to be in that situation ever again. I just won't do it. It's actually easy to have savings, but it'll require you to make changes. Which is something that I spoke about on yesterday's live stream. And the reason that most people don't make any change to their lifestyle is because of, first of all, status and comfort. And they don't want a blow to their ego. They don't want to, change is scary. And they just want to remain comfortable with having all those things that they've already got, even though those things are financed. And it requires discipline. It requires discipline, which most people don't have. That's why change only really happens once you form that habit. But how does the habit form? It's through repetition. It's through doing the same thing over and over again, having that momentum, which is what I spoke about, and just carrying on and on. And that's how change eventually happens. You can't expect a different outcome if you remain the same. Once you decide to change, everything changes. That's so true. I've realized that attitude is everything. The way you look at things, the way you go into a situation, it just determines the outcome. It determines your energy. It determines how people are going to react to you. Let's say you are going into a job. Let's say, for example, you were a manager at a retail store and you lose that job. You were laid off or maybe fired, but you really need another job as soon as possible because you're in debt and you don't have any savings, so you need money. And a job for a sales assistant crops up at another store. Do you not take it now because it's below you? You were a manager, now you're downgrading to a sales assistant? Or do you take it and then have a bad attitude and feel like you're superior about it? Thinking, oh, well, I was a manager now, let me act a certain way, even though I've got a manager now. Well, I'm not going to really I'm going to do it my way, I'm not going to listen to this person. And that just creates a very, very unpleasant environment. So that's why I talk about attitude, as opposed to going into that job and having the mindset of, let me be grateful to it. Let me be grateful for it, because although it might not be what I want at the moment, let me make the best of it. Let me make some friends. Let me learn something. Let me look at things from a different perspective and do this in the meantime until I can find a position as a manager. Or maybe these people will even promote me to manager, and might have an even bigger salary than what I did at the previous place. That's the kind of mentality that you really need when you go into any kind of situation. To prosper, you want to go in with a good attitude, to have energy. Because when you've got these negative thoughts about your position, let's say that you're in at the moment, in this case, we're talking about a job. You're going to hate your job. You're going to hate the people around. You're going to hate the company. You're going to see this job as your enemy, whereas you should see it as your ally, because it's helping you get to that situation where you want to be. So look at it from that perspective, because that's how it is. It might not be the ideal situation, but it's going to take you further if you have the right attitude. So that's why, I said now, once you decide to change, everything changes. And then obviously that attitude, you have that shift in your attitude, shift in mentality towards your finances. And that's when everything begins to change. Okay, so let's go back to the article. How not to be broke. The reason you're broke is because you made bad financial decisions, just like I did. You need to admit that to yourself so you can stop playing the victim and realize the change is within your control. Say out loud, I'm tired of being broke and I'm going to do whatever it takes to change my financial situation. You might say, why do I need to say it out loud? That's stupid. If you're not even prepared to do that, like what kind of change are you expecting to make? You've been doing things your way and it's gotten you certain results. So just try this. Just say out loud, I'm tired of being broke and I'm going to do whatever it takes to change my financial situation. If you can't even do that, where is your path going to lead you? It's that attitude that we're talking about. You need to have that change in your attitude. You need to change the way you view things, the way you view money, the way you view your spending habits and everything that encompasses your personal finances. The only time people make drastic changes is when their situation has become so unbearable that the discomfort forces them to make different decisions. And that's what I spoke about in yesterday's live stream as well. When I became homeless, I'd hit rock bottom. So not only did I not care what others thought of me, I was now really motivated to change because my situation was so dire. It was, the only other thing was if I had died, I suppose. That's the only worse thing than living on the street and barely having any food, which was my situation. So because I was so uncomfortable, that spurred me on. That gave me the motivation to make drastic changes so that I could get out of debt as soon as possible and build savings. But if you're just kind of floating along, you don't really see how badly and I spoke about this in the live stream as well, how it's a gradual decline over weeks, months, and years that you kind of go down. I went down like a rock, and that's why I needed to make a drastic change. But if you're slowly going down and down, you don't really notice. You notice the change, but like I said yesterday, it's like you gain 2 kilos and then you see a change. Okay, it's not great, but you become used to those 2 kilos after a few weeks and few months. Then you gain another 3 kilos. And like, okay, now you've put on 5 kilos. And then you become used to that 5 kilos and you just keep gaining weight and weight. And that's how it is with finances. You just keep going down and down over a period until it's gotten so bad. And only when it's gotten so bad do you make that drastic change. And that's when people only then do people make a change, when it's gotten so bad. And to avoid that, to avoid being homeless, to avoid going more into debt, make that change now. This is what it's all about. Make that change right now so that it doesn't go any deeper, doesn't get any worse. I really hope you're at that stage, meaning where things are, you just want to make a drastic change. If not, you should be. The best thing that happened to me when I was broke is that I didn't care what anyone thought about me. The status I thought my fancy BMW gave me no longer held any appeal. I no longer needed my iPad or to wear designer labels. None of those things mattered because I associated those items with being broke. Oh, that sentence right there. None of those things mattered because I associated those items with being broke. So the things that you once loved, the things that gave you great joy are the things that probably put you in debt. So my fancy BMW put me in debt, my iPad put me in debt, and several other things put me in debt. And because it brought me to such a bad place, I now viewed those things as a burden, as the enemy of financial freedom. So I didn't want them. And that's what happens, when you sink so low. The things that brought you comfort, the things that brought you joy, if you had financed them, are actually now your foe. They're not helping you. They're just dragging you down, and you want to get rid of them. You don't want them in your life because they are the things that are enabling you to be broke. I was broke because I bought stuff that gave me status and comfort. I was also living above my means. That was too close for comfort. In fact, I took a big risk by living the lifestyle I did, which eventually resulted in me living in my car on the side of the road. Yep, I was homeless. I was the richest homeless man living in a BMW. Too bad that I defaulted 3 months on the vehicle finance and the bank repossessed the car. That really happened, and it sucked like you won't believe. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And just before I got evicted from my place because I couldn't pay rent, my car had been broken for like a few months, and I didn't have the money to fix it. So I gave my furniture to the mechanic that I knew as payment for my car to fix it. And he fixed it. And I think it was like 2 or 3 days after I had now become homeless that the car broke. And then the bank called me and they wanted to repossess it. They did repossess it eventually. Just think how close you are to being on the street. For most households living paycheck to paycheck, they can be on the street next month if they lose their income. Don't let that be you. You'd be surprised as to how surreal the experience is and that it can happen to you. Make a change today. So the first step to stop being broke is you need to form new money habits. That's what I've been speaking about now for the last 40 minutes or so. Money management is a habit that has been solidified through conditioning. You've been conditioned to be a spender and you need to become a saver. The only way to convert to a saver is by reconditioning yourself. This won't happen overnight, but it's best you start right now to expedite the process. It takes more than 2 months to form a new habit. I would not be surprised if you need 6 months to shake off the frenzy of spending sprees. For some people, they'll probably need to keep up that momentum for more than a year, several years. And exactly what happened with me, you just, you become used to that lifestyle, that minimalist lifestyle, and you carry on with it after you're debt free and after you've got saving, you just carry on. But I realized that making this drastic change is difficult for many people. So I kind of did baby steps. This is where we're going into now. Set a goal for yourself to save $100 by the end of the month. $100 by the end of the month. It's only one note of Benjamin Franklin. You can do this. Here's how. Make a list of your expenses excluding housing, transportation, and debt. The list should consist only of expenses such as clothing. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Expenses such as clothing, eating out, entertainment, etc. I'm assuming that you're current on your debts. Choose one of the expenses that you know you should reduce. There are likely to be several, but choose one for now. It's important that you know the exact amount you spend on this expense so that you can reduce it by $100. If you've chosen takeaways or takeouts, however you want to call it, you actually need to reduce it by $200 because $100 will be for the increase in home cooked meals, which should be equivalent to $200 in takeaways. So what I'm saying is, if you're spending $200 on takeouts, takeouts are probably usually twice the amount of your of this groceries that you could buy. So $200 of takeout is equivalent to $100 in groceries. We're assuming that, but that's usually the case. It's equal portions. If you were to take takeout and groceries, portion them equally, the takeouts would probably likely be $200 and the groceries would be $100. So reduce the takeouts by $200, but because you're reducing takeouts by $200, this is going to increase your grocery bill by $100 because you need to substitute those takeouts for other food. And the other $100 will go into savings. More on that below. Other expenses that don't need to be substituted, such as clothing and entertainment, you can reduce by $100. As an example, if you spend $500 monthly on takeaways, your target is going to be $300. We're talking now, that comes back to reducing that expense by $200. Once you reach it, no more takeaways for the month. So you can't spend any more. Once you've spent that $300, that's it. To ensure you don't spend $100, which is the other $100 is added to your grocery bill, deposit it as soon as you get paid into a fixed deposit account that earns interest and has a maturity date of 12 months or longer. So that's, the maturity date is so that you don't dip into those funds. It just needs to be put away. This is kind of like my $100 challenge, which I will go into more detail at later stages, probably do a live stream just based on that, but you get the gist of it. I don't need to tell you that you shouldn't be using your credit card to fund expenses. Debt is evil, and you'll likely exceed the chosen expense by funding it with a credit card when you run out of cash. It's usually what happens for people who are in debt. It's the credit card is just a nice, handy little thing. So let me use it. Why not, right? That's how you just go more and more into debt. On to the second month. In the second month, you'll reduce the expense by another $100. When you get paid, you'll deposit $200 into the fixed deposit account because first month you had the $100, now the second month is another $100. That means your takeaway expense will be reduced by $300 since starting the exercise. Keep increasing the reduction by $100 every month and the fixed deposit account until your takeaway expense is zero. So every single month you just keep reducing it more and more, and by that amount that you've reduced that's going into your savings account. The next step is to target another expense. Let's use clothing as an example. You're going to reduce it monthly by $100 until it's eventually zero while funding the fixed deposit account. If you can reduce 2 expenses in 1 month, even better. The more you reduce, the less broke you're going to be. The goal is to reduce every non-essential expense to zero. Don't look at the fixed deposit account balance for at least 6 months. After 6 months, take a peek and then continue the deposits. Look at it after 12 months and you'll be surprised to discover that you have more than $1,000. You might think that $1,000 is chump change. If so, why don't you have it now? That's a good question to ask. If you think, I'm saving, I'm going into the store and I don't want to buy cheese, I'm looking for discounts. Okay, maybe I'm weird, maybe I'm creepy. But you know what? I've got more than $1,000 in savings. Do you? And if you don't, maybe it's time to start saving. Start reducing your expenses, cutting back. During my broke days, I learned that I needed to know how to manage $100 before I could manage $10,000 and eventually $1,000 and eventually $10,000. So, that's a good point. Prove that you can manage $100 before somebody can even give you $1,000 to manage or $10,000. Prove yourself with small amounts, because if you can't do it with the small amounts, how are you going to do it with big amounts? Final thoughts on how to stop being broke. I can tell you that you need to live below your means and save money. Everybody knows that. But you need to start somewhere. And the advice I've provided is practical and will recondition you to become a saver. It will do wonders for your fixed deposit account. The extra money in your bank account will not only provide a passive income, but it's your first step to financial freedom. You'll be sickened by the thought of spending money and having credit card debt. Saving money and working towards your financial goal will become a priority. That goes back to making decisions about a new purchase. You're going to see, once you've conditioned yourself to become a saver, and then you get this purchase in your head that you want to make, and you think, okay, it will be nice. It would be nice to enjoy this new car, but I would much rather use that money for an investment, which is going to grow my money. And then when I make a profit from that investment, I'm going to use a portion of those profits to buy my car. So then I'll have the original investment and I'll still have a portion of the profits and this thing that I want to buy. Isn't that a much better position to be in than just going out immediately buying the thing that you want and then not having that investment, not having those profits? That's one of the things that you're going to have this mental shift once you've conditioned yourself to become a saver. Challenge yourself to decrease your expenses as much as possible. I recommend $100 to get you started, but you can make it $200 and even higher. If you really want to optimize the rewards, check out my article, How to Stop Living Paycheck to Paycheck and Save a Lot of Money. It'll help you to become intense so that you get out of debt quickly and build a healthy savings account. And that article is available on finishfirstfinancially.com and many others that are all available for free. It's information that I'm choosing to share for free. Hopefully somebody will read it. Maybe somebody will even use it and improve their life. So I hope that you've gotten some value out of this session, because the things that I've mentioned now sound simple, and they are simple. Excuse me. But it's things that took me literally years to learn, and it was through trial and error. It's like you can tell somebody, well, you need to lose weight. Okay, I know I need to lose weight, and there's all this information out there, but only once you take that leap and you really make a commitment to it, and then you go through this whole process, do you learn from the process. Even though the information has always been there, you're learning from your own process. And that's how I learned, and how I'm able to now talk for an hour about a personal finance topic. I haven't prepared anything. I just switched the camera on and I started talking about it. So it's through personal experience, and that's the best teacher. It's you need to really dive head into this. You need to make a commitment to it, and you need to stick it out for a long period. And once you stick it out, you're going to become a saver, and you're going to be debt free, and it's going to be an amazing feeling, and you're going to have money. You're not going to be living paycheck to paycheck. You're not going to be broke anymore. You are going to have money for emergencies that crop up. You don't want to be in a situation like that girl at the shop that I visit. Don't allow that for yourself. Who cares what other people think about you? Who cares if they scoffing because now you want to save money, and you actually want to be included on the pensioners days discount like I did. Who cares? Who cares? What should be more important to you is growing your net worth. That's what it's about. That's why it's about being debt free, so you can have freedom. You know, the more money you have, the more freedom you've got. That's what it was to me. That's what money represented to me. So I'm going to wrap up this stream. There's so much more to talk about. There's going to be an article that I'll cover tomorrow, a different topic. Obviously, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, always. Let's grow this channel. Let me get some viewers, please, so that somebody is actually listening to me and I don't feel like I'm just talking to myself. And even now, there's nobody really watching this live stream, and that's okay. I still feel that I've gotten value from this, and hopefully I've given value. That's more important. And I will catch you tomorrow. And thank you so much for watching. And keep coming back Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you then.